Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
Aces and the other true god tiers were furious after hearing Zhou Zhou's words. Do you think that you're invincible with these divine spirit guards who have mastered the laws of shattering and instant death? Aces said with a cold expression. If it's another race, they might really be unable to do anything to you. But you should never have come to my shadow clan. He looked at Zhou Zhou. Two black rays of light shot out from his eyes that were as black crystal. With lightning speed, they instantly shone on Zhou Zhou's body. Zhou Zhou watched this scene calmly, as if he was not surprised by this move. The next second, Zhou Zhou and Aces, the two strongest patriarchs of their respective races, disappeared on the spot. In the sky, only Zhou Manage, Zhou Fight, and 9 other true god tiers from the opposing people of foreign races were left. Aces has already opened the lifeless shadow realm. He's a top-notch god. Spirit expert who's a true god tier advanced grade. He also possesses a true god tier divine artifacts, and he even pulled Zhou Zhou into the lifeless shadow realm that he's most proud of. The common people's regal will definitely die. Let's get rid of these 2 clones of him first. My innate premonition tells me that if we don't get rid of these 2 clones of the common people's regal, that fellow might make a comeback. True god tier, Xian, Mei from the Blood Moon race, said solemnly again. True god tier, Xian, Mei from the Blood Moon race, said solemnly again. They did not dare to underestimate the words of this true god tier. The other party was a true god tier of the Blood Moon race's royal family after all. When he was young, he had even been blessed by the mythical tier lunar star spirit. Now that he had grown up, he could be said to be in existence with high status and unlimited potential in the Blood Moon race. It was very likely that he would become the next patriarch of the Blood Moon race in the future. It was almost impossible for he to be wrong. Don't let these 2 guys escape. The common people's regal's death is today. Don't put up any unnecessary resistance. True god Xian Mei immediately led the other 9 true gods of the people of foreign races and charged towards Zhou Fight and Zhou Jingfei. Seeing this scene, Zhou Manage and Zhou Zhan immediately flew in opposite directions. The 9 true god tier S of the people of foreign races immediately split into 2 teams. Among them, true god Xian Mei was the strongest. She led the other 4 true gods of the people of foreign races to chase after Zhou Fight. As for the other 4 true god tiers of the people of foreign races, they went to chase and kill Zhou Manage. Zhou Manage and Zhou Zhan flew for about 100 million kilometers before stopping. Then, they turned around and waited calmly for the true god tiers of the people of foreign races to come to them. Zhou Zhan and I are so far apart. I shouldn't let the aftershocks of the battle hurt my subjects. Zhou Fight pondered. When true god tier Xian Mei and the other true gods of the people of foreign races saw that Zhou Zhan and Zhou Zheng had suddenly stopped running, they were very excited at first. However, they quickly thought of something and their gazes changed slightly. They carefully observed the 2 Zhou Zhou clones and the surrounding environment, afraid that a large number of troops would ambush them in the next second. Everyone, be careful of the common people's regal. That guy is full of tricks. These 2 clones suddenly didn't run, but stayed where they were and waited for us. They must have some bad intentions. Everyone, quickly check if there are any ambushes or traps around. There's no ambush. I've already used my telepathic thoughts to check the surroundings. Elle didn't find any traps here either. In the beginning, the true god tiers of the people of foreign races were still very cautious of Zhou Zhou and Zhou Zhan's abnormal behavior. However, when they realized that there were really no ambushes or traps in the surroundings of Zhou Manage and Zhou Zhan, and that they really wanted to face them alone, they were a little embarrassed and angry, but they quickly smiled. You're just 2 clones of the main body, yet you still dare to try and learn from the common people's regal. It seems like the 2 of you have been following Zhou Zhou for too long. So long that even your brains have become useless. Cut the crap. Kill them, and we'll immediately go and support Aces. Although Aces has already used her trump card, I still feel that it's not safe to leave him alone as a true god tier to deal with the common people's regal. You're right. Quickly kill these 2 fellows. Under the urging of the true gods, the 9 opposing true gods finally stopped being cautious. They brazenly picked up their divine weapons and displayed all kinds of powerful true god-tier law skills as they charged towards Zhou Fight and Zhou Zhou. Even though I'm only a lord in administrative matters, don't underestimate my strength. Seeing this scene, Zhou managed shook his head. He looked at the true god-tiers of the people of foreign races with coldness and killing intent in his eyes as he spoke. On the other side, looks like we can have a good fight today. Zhou Fight's performance was the complete opposite of Zhou Manage's. He looked at the 5 true gods of the people of foreign races, including true god Xianmei, and revealed an invincible smile. Boom, boom. The two of them instantly emitted a terrifying god spirit pressure that was infinitely close to that of a true god tier. Then, they immediately charged towards the group of true gods. Even though these true, god-tier people of foreign races were shocked by the strength of these 2 clones at the beginning, as the top powerhouses of their respective races, they had unparalleled confidence in their strength and trump cards. Moreover, this was not a one-on-one battle, but an additional one. Therefore, they were even more fearless. When they saw Zhou Fight and Zhou Zhou charging over, they immediately faced the enemy and charged over. Soon, the 2 sides entered a white-hot battle. At the same time, the true god-tier Jackro of the Shadow Clan had already organized more than 300 billion soldiers and more than 3,600 god spirits. He looked at the Shadow Clan soldiers and god spirits, who had become a little dispirited because they no longer had the shadow canopy, and a gloomy expression appeared on his face. The destruction of the shadow canopy was a huge blow to the Shadow Clan, be it in terms of strength or psychology, but when he saw his terrifying military strength and the number of his true god tiers, he felt even more comforted. So what if there's no shadow canopy? The strength of the Shadow Clan and the people of foreign races' allied army still far exceeds that of the common people's regal and his blazing sun kingdom. The number of true god tiers is far inferior to ours. What right does he have to fight us? He said proudly. The strength of the Shadow Clan and the people of foreign races' allied army still far exceeds that of the common people's regal and his blazing sun kingdom. The other powerful true god tiers of the people of foreign races were fighting crazily with Zhou Zhou and Zhou Zhou. The intensity of the battle made even him, the experienced true god tier of the Shadow Clan, click his tongue. As for the common people's regal and his patriarch, Jackro didn't need to think too much about it. He knew that the common people's regal must have been imprisoned in the shadow realm by his ecstatic patriarch with his intrinsic divine power, silent shadow realm. He was probably waiting for an opportunity to assassinate him. As he could not see the situation in his patriarch's lifeless shadow realm, Jackro could only look at Zhou Fight and Zhou Zhou, who were fighting the 8 true god tiers of the people of foreign races. In the end, what shocked him was that Zhou Fight and Zhou Zhou were clearly just 2 clones of the common people's regal. In the end, their combat strength was not inferior to Zhou Zhou's at all. In fact, they were even suppressing the 4 to 5 true god tiers on their side. Every time the incomparably terrifying myriad method star palm was executed, it was as if it had the might to destroy the world, and the laws were chaotic. All the top true gods present, including true god Xianmei, were so afraid that they did not dare to take it head-on and could only dodge in a sorry state. How's this a clone? It looks even fiercer than the main body, okay? I have to quickly support our true god tier experts. Otherwise, once our true god tier experts are defeated on the battlefield, no matter how many soldiers I have under me, one definitely won't have a chance of winning. Jackro suddenly woke up. Then, he immediately led more than 300 billion troops and more than 3,600 god spirits to fly towards the direction of the true god tier that was fighting in the sky. The Alliance's legions began to quickly set up their military formations as they flew. In the blink of an eye, thousands of god spirit-level military formations were set up. Just as they were about to charge into the true god tier battlefield and interfere in the battle between true gods. Splash! Countless weapons clashed. Then, a sea of soldiers appeared from the void and immediately flew in front of them like an iron wall, blocking their way up. 1 billion, 10 billion, 100 billion, 1 trillion. In less than a moment, 1 trillion soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom appeared in the sky above the Shadow Clan's territory. They could naturally choose to fly, while the new recruits who had yet to master the ability to fly carried the free equipment of the new recruits, the Fear Falcon wings, and flew in the sky together. The sunlight that shone down from the sky landed on the bodies of all the soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, making them look as sacred and dignified as heavenly troops. They did not dare to invade or stop them. When these more than 300 billion Shadow Clan soldiers saw these empire-level soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, they were actually afraid of the aura emitted by them and did not dare to go forward. When they realized that there were actually more than 2,400 powerful and magical gods hidden among these 10 trillion imperial soldier types, their hearts sank. This isn't right. Their patriarch had told them that even though the human race had many soldiers, the number of god spirits was far inferior to theirs when they came. Why was he almost comparable to them in the blink of an eye? At this moment, the White Cloud's cold and resounding voice resounded throughout the entire Shadow Clan territory. I am the common people's regal, the 10,000 spirit saint, and the First Legion commander under the Blazing Sun Kingdom's king, Bai Yun. We've been waiting for you here for a long time. Those who want to surrender can put down their weapons and say that they are willing to join our Blazing Sun Kingdom. We can spare your lives. If you choose not to surrender and stubbornly resist, there will only be one outcome: death. Bai Yun's calm voice revealed a heavy and bloody killing intent. After several consecutive genocidal wars, he was no longer ignorant. The current he had long surpassed his former teacher, Wu Xian, and had become the strongest general in the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Surrender, 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 and surrender. 1 trillion soldiers of the Imperial soldier type with extraordinary tier power roared in unison. Their voices almost shook the sky, causing the wind and clouds in the world to change and the sun and moon to lose their light. Such a huge war power brought incomparable pressure to Jacro and his more than 300 billion soldiers and more than 3,600 god spirits. Many soldiers and god spirits looked hesitant, and even terrified. At this moment, they already had the intention to escape. Jacro had experienced countless wars in his life. The soldiers' abnormal mentality immediately attracted his attention. Soldiers of my race, hold your breath. Don't be fooled by the threat of the female general. You are soldiers of our Shadow Clan. The people behind you are our race and your family. Do you really want to hand over your future and the lives of your relatives to a human lord? Don't forget that we have a long-standing feud with the human race. Do you think they will let go of the hatred accumulated over the years? In addition, I've already sent the inspectorate to supervise your battle from behind. If any of you choose to join the Blazing Sun Kingdom, don't even think about running to the Blazing Sun Kingdom's camp. I'll promise to wipe out all the defectors among you before you escape from the battlefield to restore the might of our army. After Jacro quickly appeased the morale of the troops, he immediately threatened them without holding back. The soldiers and god spirits of the Shadow Clan shuddered when they heard this. Even though they didn't know what they were thinking, at least on the surface, they didn't dare to go against Jacro, a true god tier. Jacro saw that the hearts of the people were barely maintained by him. Even though his expression was still cold, he heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. These soldiers and god spirits were the key for the Shadow Clan to defeat the Blazing Sun Kingdom and the common people's regal. He didn't want such an important matter to fall into his hands. Break through the defenses of the Blazing Sun Kingdom's soldiers as quickly as possible and support our true god tier. Break through the defenses of the Blazing Sun Kingdom's soldiers as quickly as possible and support our true god tier. Whether it's the Shadow Clan or the soldiers of our other allies, they can accept my reward. Jacro said loudly, but his heart ached. It was easy to say that he would be promoted to a true god tier cultivation resource, but when he thought about handing them over, even ACs would feel heartache for a long time, let alone him. A set of resources to advance to the true god tier was already comparable to a set of treasures at the racial foundation level after all. Even the original spirit race and the chaos gods race did not dare to underestimate resources of this level. They were now preempting the foundation of their race in advance to forcefully increase their morale. The eyes of the Shadow Clan soldiers and the soldiers of the people of foreign races turned red when they heard Jacro's words. If they were really lucky enough to obtain this set of resources to advance to the true God tier, and were extremely lucky to advance to the true God tier, it could completely be described as reaching the heavens in a single step. Even if they felt that even if they had the resources to advance to the true God tier, they were not confident that they could advance to the true God tier. If they sold it, it would be enough to create a deity family that had lasted for tens of thousands of years. At this moment, most of the Shadow Clan soldiers and god spirits went crazy. They erupted with all their strength and charged in the direction of the Blazing Sun Kingdom soldiers. It was as if as long as they rushed over, they would be able to obtain a ticket to become a true god tier. Bai Yun, Wu Xin, Hua Qiao, Qi Xiantian, Yuan Tsong, Ing Ning, the generals, and the god spirits watched this scene with cold expressions. The morale is not bad. However, the most fundamental factor that determines the outcome of a war is still true strength. Recklessness is not enough to create a world, Bai Yin said lightly. With that, her eyes narrowed as she gave an order. All the yellow talisman Dao soldiers will rush out to hunt these enemy soldiers and protect the forbidden mage spellcasters behind us. They can cast spells normally. If a soldier from the people of foreign races rushes out of your killing circle and goes to His Majesty, you can go to the Punisher Bureau to receive your punishment tonight. All the soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom roared. Then they saw the yellow talisman Dao soldiers standing in the front row charging towards the Shadow Clan soldiers and people of foreign races with sinister smiles. Under the protection of the yellow talisman Dao soldiers, the forbidden spellcasters began to wave their wands and chant forbidden spells. Then, they began to cast forbidden spells one after another, bombarding the Shadow Clan soldiers and the people of foreign races. At that time, the more than 300 billion Shadow Clan soldiers, the people of Foreign Race Alliance soldiers, and the more than 3,600 hostile god spirits were instantly beaten into a mess. These guys were stunned as soon as they exchanged blows. At the same time, high up in the sky, Zhou Fight and Zhou Zhou suddenly teleported together and looked at the battle below. I'll feel that even if we don't take action, our soldiers and gods can easily win. Zhou Fight crossed his arms and looked at the scene calmly as he commented. Hurry up and attack. El don't want these people of foreign races to be killed by our soldiers. Zhou Manage said helplessly. You can use the 10,000 Spirit Saint. I'll protect you. Zhou Fight shook his head. Sure. Zhou Manage also knew the other party's personality. He didn't hesitate and immediately released the 10,000 Spirit Saint, the only mythical tier Lord talent. An invisible wave instantly spread to the entire Shadow Clan territory, with Zhou Manage's palm as the center. In the blink of an eye, it covered the entire Shadow Clan territory and a text notification appeared. Prompt. You have activated your mythical tier, unique Lord talent, 10,000 Spirit Saint. All spirits see you as a supreme saint and long to follow you. Lord Talent Notification 1. There are approximately 3,215 trillion ordinary Shadow Clan members, 30 billion Black Iron Tier Shadow Clan soldiers, 70 billion Green Bronze Tier Shadow Clan soldiers, 40.5 billion White Silver Tier Shadow Clan soldiers, 11.69 billion Yellow Gold Tier Shadow Clan soldiers, 5.012 billion White Platinum Tier Shadow Clan soldiers, 3.219 billion Diamond Tier Shadow Clan soldiers, 1.223 billion Extraordinary Tier Shadow Clan soldiers, 320 million Epic Tier Shadow Clan soldiers, 125 million Legendary Tier Shadow Clan soldiers, 1,035 Low-Tier Deity Level Shadow Clan God Spirits, 400 Mid-Tier Deity Level Shadow Clan God Spirits, 112 High-Tier Deity Level Shadow Clan God Spirits, 11 True God Tier Shadow Clan God Spirits broke away from their lords and became your loyal followers. Lord Talent Notification 2. You have obtained a spellcaster, Jia Shi. Mid-tier deity level advanced grade. Just as Zhou Manage finished casting the lifeless Shadow Realm in the Shadow Clan's true god, AC's lifeless Shadow Realm, Zhou Zhou, who was hovering in the air, looked at the 10,000 Spirit Saints talent notification that had suddenly appeared in front of him, and a smile appeared on his face. Not bad. After this round of 10,000 spirit saints, he had directly obtained more than 3,000 trillion ordinary Shadow Clan members. In other words, there were more than 6,000 trillion Shadow Clan members in the entire Shadow Clan territory. As expected of a powerful race that could firmly suppress the human race at Imperial Lord Pangu's peak. It was obvious just from the number of ordinary subjects. In addition, this time, the 10,000 Spirit Saint had also brought him a total of 162.3 billion 53 to 76 million soldiers and 1,547 God spirits. Most importantly, he had also brought the loyalty of 11 true God tiers to Zhou Zhou. One had to know that he only had 5 true gods under him, excluding Carol Moali, who was a special true God tier. This shot from the 10,000 Spirit Saint directly doubled the number of true God tiers. It was comparable to the number of true God tiers in the human race. This is the strength of the mythical tier-only Lord Talent. Zhou Zhou sighed. With a thought, he gave the order to all the soldiers and God spirits who had been incited by insight defection to counterattack internally. Then, he looked at the lifeless shadow realm in front of him. This was a dark world formed by the power of shadows. He was boundless and incomparably dark. If ordinary supernatural beings were here, they would probably lose their way immediately and be lost in this world forever. Zhou Zhou naturally did not have such a problem. He even calmly enjoyed the scenery of the lifeless shadow world for a while before looking at a dark corner not far away and suddenly striking out with his palm. The myriad method star palm. A starry sky divine palm that was filled with the stars of the divine kingdom suddenly flew out and quickly smashed into the dark corner. Ah! A scream sounded. Then, a figure as thick as ink flew out and landed in the air not far away. It was Aces. At that moment, he had one hand covering half of his body that was constantly turning into black fog and dissipating as he looked at Zhou Zhou with fear. "You actually discovered me?" he said in disbelief. The lifeless shadow realm was the intrinsic divine power of the Shadow Clan. The shadow realm summoned was almost as strong as a world. Especially since he was a true God tier, the lifeless shadow realm he summoned was not inferior to an ordinary middle world. As the master of the lifeless shadow realm, he was almost equivalent to the heavenly Tao of this world. Normally speaking, unless it was in existence at the level of a master God tier or above, it was impossible to discover his hiding location. How did the common people's regal find out? Zhou Zhou did not explain. Aces's lifeless shadow realm was indeed not bad, but he was not only a chaos human. He was also born with astonishing sixth senses and could sense many difficult things and existences. He had also reached the realm of willpower that only Master God tier had. He had just used his willpower to sense it slightly, and he had easily found this fellow's hiding place. So what if you can see through my invisibility technique? You're still going to die today. Aces's expression was cold as a dagger silently appeared in her right hand. This dagger was completely black, and only the handle had a crescent moon symbol that was as white as jade. This was the true God tier divine artifacts that only the Shadow Clan's clan leader could inherit. Aces's true God tier title was Assassination and Darkest True God tier. Most of it came from this true God tier intermediate grade divine artifact. You should feel honored to die under my clan's inherited divine artifact, Aces said in a low voice. Then, his divine body quietly disappeared from the lifeless shadow realm. The next second, he suddenly appeared behind Zhou Zhou. The dark moon shadow blade in his hand turned into a black light and stabbed at the back of Zhou Zhou's head. He wanted to pierce through common people's regal's brain and even his divine spark, thereby killing he in one strike. But in the next moment, clang, a sound that sounded like a sharp weapon piercing the steel city wall sounded. Aces's dark moon shadow blade only managed to pierce the surface of Zhou Zhou's skin. After that, it couldn't go any further. Aces watched this scene with her mouth agape. How is this possible? Could your divine body be forged by defensive, true, God-tier, divine artifacts? Aces said in shock. He felt as if his worldview had been overturned. How could there be a god spirit who could defend against the attacks of offensive, true, god-tier divine artifacts just by relying on his divine body? He gritted his teeth and his body suddenly transformed into a shadow energy that disappeared from the lifeless shadow realm. Don't waste your time. I can see where you're hiding, Zhou Zhou said loudly. With a heaven-defying body like the chaotic divine body in hand, he wouldn't be afraid of these assassin's sneak attacks. That was why he dared to enter the other party's lifeless shadow realm alone. Then, he struck out another myriad method star palm at a certain shadow. Before the divine palm could land, a pitch-black shadow flew out in advance and dodged the attack of the myriad method star palm in a sorry state. However, he had dodged it, but the lifeless shadow realm behind he had no way of dodging it. After this palm landed, there was a loud bang, and the entire lifeless shadow realm shook violently. Then, cracks spread in all directions from where the divine palm landed. In less than 4 to 5 seconds, rumble. The lifeless shadow world, which was comparable to a middle world, exploded with a bang and turned into shadow fog that flew in all directions before quickly disappearing into the air. After all the shadow fog disappeared, Aces's body trembled as he barely maintained his altitude. The aura on his body had already weakened by more than half. His intrinsic divine power, the lifeless shadow realm, was related to his life. Now that his intrinsic divine power had been destroyed, he naturally suffered heavy injuries. My lifeless shadow realm, my inherited divine artifact. He looked at the dark moon shadow blade while his hand was trembling. He never expected that his two strongest aspects would be completely crushed by the other party. Then he thought of something. His eyes changed slightly, but in the end, they became firm. He looked up at Zhou Zhou. With a thought, a temporarily created world of shadows was created as the newest battlefield for the two true god tiers, he and Zhou Zhou. At the same time, Zhou Zhou looked at Aces and felt a sense of danger. He narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at the other party. He thought of the information that Wu Tu had told he about the Shadow Tribe's trump cards. Without any hesitation, he struck out 3 consecutive palm strikes, determined to kill Aces. Wasn't the kind of person who would let the other party use his trump card against him despite knowing that the other party had a trump card. The danger was to strangle him in the bud. The 3 myriad method star palms arrived in front of Aces almost instantly. Boom, boom. The first 2 strikes of the myriad method star palm directly struck the other party's body, shattering his divine body. At the same time, his aura instantly weakened to the extreme, as if he was about to die in the next second. However, just as the 3rd strike of the myriad method star palm was about to destroy the other party's final life force, a palm-sized great lunar stone sculpture suddenly appeared in front of Aces. The great lunar stone sculpture was completely jade-like and emitted a noble and holy moonlight. A supreme aura that ruled over the Een emitted from its body. I'm the current patriarch of the Shadow Clan, Aces. Cough cough. I'm willing to sacrifice my life. Regal Great Lunar, please take action and destroy the enemy who wants to destroy our race. Aces said in a weak, hoarse, and determined voice. The surroundings were silent. It was as if this great lunar stone sculpture had no reaction to Aces's words at all. When Zhou Zhou saw this, he did not hesitate to strike again, killing this true, god-tier advanced grade shadow race patriarch completely. After killing it, Zhou Zhou instantly felt that his promotion energy requirements for advancing to low-tier deity level advanced grade had been completely satisfied. He could advance to the low-tier deity level advanced grade as long as he had enough law comprehension. However, he wasn't paying attention to this at the moment. He was staring intently at the great lunar stone sculpture. I've already killed him. He wouldn't emerge now, right? Zhou Zhou frowned. After waiting for a while and seeing no reaction from him, Zhou Zhou heaved a sigh of relief. He walked forward and prepared to put away the great lunar stone sculpture. This was a master god-tier level treasure, so he naturally could not waste it. However, just as he was about to fly over, he saw the great lunar stone sculpture tremble slightly. Following that, wisps of clear moonlight emitted from the surface of its body. With it as the core, he quickly constructed an existence that wore a moon-white holy robe. Its body was transparent, and its face was blurry. It was the phantom of the regal great lunar that was as famous as the sun star. Facing this existence that was even stronger than the abyss will, Zhou Zhou could not help but take a deep breath. Even though he had already heard about this great lunar stone sculpture from Wu Tu before he came. But when facing this legendary existence, he still felt an incomparable pressure. Regal Great Lunar is a top-notch god spirit of the heavenly pantheon. Together with Regal's son, he controls all the heavenly gods in the myriad worlds. He can be said to be the god emperor among the heavenly gods. At the same time, he is the same as Regal Great Solar, also a natural-born regal. In terms of strength and status, they are even higher than the supreme god, realm, and even the abyss M/ill, second only to the supreme will and the crimson overlord. As expected of an existence born as a regal, Zhou Zhou muttered in his heart. He was an acquired regal. Of course, the difference between a born regal and an acquired regal was actually not that big. There was also a possibility that an acquired regal could catch up or even surpass an innate regal. Hence, Zhou Zhou did not belittle himself. At this moment, the phantom of the regal great lunar looked at Zhou Zhou. Right on the heels of that, a holy white divine light shot out from his body and shot straight at Zhou Zhou. That incomparably terrifying pressure was undoubtedly an attack at the Master God tier level. When Zhou Zhou saw this, he immediately reacted quickly and put on a black armor. As soon as the black armor possessed him, it immediately spread to his entire body, enveloping him, without revealing any gaps. In the next moment, the holy white divine light landed on Zhou Zhou's black helmet that extended out of his black armor. A magical scene happened. After the holy white divine light hit the black helmet, there was no earth-shattering explosion. Instead, it was slowly and laboriously sucked into the helmet like water melting in the ground. After a while, the divine light from the regal great lunar phantom was actually absorbed by the black helmet. Regal Great Lunar didn't do anything else when he saw this. His entire phantom turned into countless lunar rays of light and dissipated in the air, leaving behind a dull gray spherical stone. Zhou Zhou heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, I was prepared. I specially prepared an Earth Elemental Master. God Level 1, Time-Use Defensive Treasure, Black Mountain Divine Earth, to block this elemental attack. Otherwise, there might really be some danger and I might waste my resurrection counts when in a hurry. He muttered to himself. Then, with a thought, the black piece of soil trembled and then disintegrated into countless powders that dissipated in the air. Looks like it has reached its limit after absorbing a round of attacks from the regal great lunar phantom. Zhou Zhou felt that it was a pity. However, when he thought of the possible loots on Aces, he couldn't help but smile. That guy had a true god-level intermediate grade divine artifact, Dark Moon Shadow Blade. If he extracted his spoils of war this time, he would definitely be able to obtain a Master God tier intermediate grade divine artifact. Compared to the Master God divine artifact, this loss was nothing. Thinking of this, he immediately looked up at the gray spherical stone not far away and Aces's broken divine body behind it. Zhou Zhou waved his right hand, and the gray spherical stone and broken divine body flew over and landed in his hand. A magical scene happened. After landing in his hands, the gray stone, which had been dim a moment ago, seemed to have been replenished and restored from a mysterious place. In the blink of an eye, it became jade-like again. In fact, the pure moonlight and supreme aura it emitted were several times stronger than when it was in Aces's hands. Zhou Zhou looked at it. The item information appeared. Treasure name: Great Lunar Emperor's Vision Divine Stone. Treasure grade: Master God tier Elementary grade. Treasure effect: Summon the spirit of the Great Lunar Stone sculpture. It can release a divine light attack that is comparable to Master God tier. Elementary grade. Treasure description: Originally, it was just a great lunar spirit stone that wanted to polish itself into the shape of a lunar star. Later on, the supreme and holy regal great lunar discovered the other party and cast a gaze on it, creating this Master God tier Great Lunar Emperor's Vision Divine Stone. Current usage of the Great Lunar Divine Light: 0/1. Prompt: with the enhancement of your Collector's Lord talent, The current usage of the Great Lunar Divine Light has increased to 4/4. So the main body of this thing is actually a conscious Great Lunar Spirit Stone. Just because of regal Great Lunar's gaze, his grade was raised to the level of a Master God tier and even became the trump card of a powerful race. Zhou Zhou could not help but click his tongue. This origin was too ridiculous. Moreover, regal Great Lunar was indeed in existence second only to the Supreme Will and the Crimson Overlord. A single gaze could actually create a Master God tier treasure. If he encountered the other party would probably kill him with a single glance. He shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Then, his gaze landed on Aces's corpse as he carefully studied his spoils of war. After reading it, he revealed a smile. As expected of a true God-tier advanced grade, patriarch-level expert, he had thousands of spoils of war. The weakest among them was a lesser god, and the highest was naturally the intermediate true God-tier, Dark Moon Shadow Blade. No, it should be called the Great Lunar Demon Blade, a Master God intermediate grade divine artifact. Apart from that, even though there were no other Master God divine artifacts, there were still hundreds of Master God tier medicinal herbs, potions, ores, fruits, seeds, and other miscellaneous treasures. Zhou Zhou was quite satisfied with this. Then, he looked down at the battlefield. On the battlefield, the scales of victory on the battlefield had already tilted to the Blazing Sun Kingdom's side with an overwhelming advantage. The most important reason was naturally the order that Zhou Zhou had just given to the enemy to counterattack from within the Insight defection. There were more than 160 billion soldiers, more than 1,500 god spirits, and a total of 11 true god tier after all. Half of the soldiers and god spirits instantly became the enemies of their comrades. Moreover, in the blink of an eye, they counterattacked their comrades. How could they react? Even those true god-tier existences were affected by this sudden change. As for the Shadow Clan's alliance army, they had also lost a third of their remaining soldiers and god spirits in less than half an hour because of this sudden internal betrayal. After that, this group of Shadow Clan allied army soldiers and god spirits reacted. Faced with the internal strife of their own people and the attacks of the Blazing Sun Kingdom soldiers and god spirits outside, how could they, who had already fallen into a huge military disadvantage and a god spirit disadvantage, still withstand it? In less than a moment, they were at an absolute disadvantage and had no chance of turning the tables. The Shadow Clan's true god, Jacro, couldn't help but feel grief, indignation, and despair when he saw the Shadow Clan's army struggling to resist. In the current situation, he really had no way of saving him. If the Patriarch can kill that common people's regal in his lifeless shadow realm, we might still have a chance to salvage the situation. Jacro suddenly had this thought. As Aces's most trusted brother, the #1 true god tier of the Shadow tribe, he naturally knew that Aces had a Master God tier level trump card. However, the conditions for using that trump card seemed to be a little harsh, so Aces had always kept it a secret. If Aces dared to use that Master God tier trump card to kill that common people's regal, they would definitely have a chance to turn the tables. Moreover, the Shadow Clan would also receive the recognition of countless top races and super experts in the future because of this matter. They might have a chance to reach the heavens in a single step, just as Jacro held the last hope in his heart. A loud explosion suddenly sounded in the sky. Then, the shadows of two god spirits flashed and disappeared. In a short period of time, they opened up a new combat world and disappeared. Even though this period of time was extremely short, Jacro still saw some clues. Their patriarch's lifeless shadow world seemed to have been destroyed by the other party before he had no choice but to reveal himself. This common people's regal dares to use the power of a true god tier in the high continent unscrupulously just because his true strength is only low-tier deity level intermediate grade. As for true gods, they have to be restricted by the agreement and cannot use their powers freely in the high continent. True god tiers like us are actually subjected to greater restrictions than a low-tier deity level god spirit like him. Jacro couldn't help but feel aggrieved when he saw his patriarch take the initiative to create a combat world. However, he was also shocked by the strength of the common people's regal at the same time. To be able to forcefully blow up the lifeless shadow realm in Aces's lifeless shadow realm. This meant that the other party's strength had definitely crushed the patriarch of their shadow clan. If Aces didn't use any trump cards, he would probably die without a doubt. Patriarch, oh patriarch, now is not the time to hide. Hurry up and take out your trump card to destroy this arrogant common people's regal. Jacro thought silently. He had absolute confidence in the master god-tier trump card that Aces had. He didn't believe that even if the lord of the common people's regal could be ahead of many lords of the myriad races, could he still be ahead of the veteran races that had managed their races for countless years? Even Emperor Pangu, who was known to be invincible among true god-tier experts back then, did not have that confidence. Unless the other party also had a master god-tier trump card. But how could that be? What kind of luck did the common people's regal have to be able to obtain a master god-tier treasure in such a short period of time? The legendary luck and the luck of the true god-tier of drama were not that ridiculous. But in the next moment, a spatial crack appeared in the sky. A figure took a step forward and looked down at the battlefield below. He wore the Emperor Dragon robe and had the regal Sage Dao sword at his waist. His aura was supreme. His pitch-black eyes looked at the two sides fighting below, as if he was the ruler of the world watching the battle between the life forms of the lower realm. It was the common people's regal, Zhou Zhou. Jacro stared at him blankly. He actually walked out of the warring world created by Aces so easily, without any injuries? Then wouldn't our patriarch be? He didn't dare to think further. A majestic voice descended from the sky and resounded in the hearts of every soldier and god spirit on both sides of the battle. Shadow Race Patriarch, Aces has been killed by our common peoples. Regal, why aren't you surrendering? Otherwise, do you want to follow him to the netherworld of the dead? The soldiers and god spirits were stunned. Then, they looked up. Zhou Zhou was flying high in the sky, holding a token that emitted a shadow aura. This was the Shadow Divine token that only the Shadow Clan Patriarch could possess. The Shadow Clan soldiers and the Alliance soldiers looked at this token helplessly and anxiously. They could not help but feel that it was ridiculous. According to those big shots, shouldn't their role in this battle be the absolute advantage? Why was he not only at an absolute disadvantage in terms of ordinary soldiers and god spirits? Even the leader of this battle was dead. What was the point of fighting then? Realizing this, the morale of the soldiers and gods fell to the lowest point. Among them, Jacro's divine body trembled as he looked at Zhou Zhou and the divine shadow token in his hand. Brother, brother, why? He was sad. He was crying, and he was in despair. However, he was not afraid. In fact, the desire to tear common people's regal apart was more than 1,000,000 times stronger. Kill, 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 kill them all. If I see a soldier, general, or even a god spirit taking a step back, or even surrendering, forget about Zhou Zhou. I'll kill all of you first. Let's see if he will protect you faster, or if I will kill you faster. Recalling his tens of thousands of years of friendship with Aces and the trustworthy face that the other party had given him before he left, Jacro went completely crazy. Perhaps his elder brother already knew that he might not return this time. So he handed him the Shadow Divine token that only the Patriarch could grasp and asked him to command all the Shadow Clan members and soldiers before he left. Common people's regal. I'll kill you. He gritted his teeth in his heart. All the Shadow Clan and Alliance soldiers couldn't help but shiver when they heard this true God-tier's words. They were indeed afraid of the common people's regal, but they were more afraid of Jacro, who could take their lives faster. Under the fear of death, they could only do their best to resist the attacks of the Blazing Sun Kingdom's soldiers that were like a vast ocean. High up in the sky, Zhou Zhou also saw this scene. A man at the end of his rope. It's just an act of fighting a cornered beast. The ending won't change. He shook his head. He, who was familiar with the other party's information, naturally knew that the Shadow Clan did not have any other threatening trump cards other than the great lunar stone sculpture. As for the other true god-tiers of the people of foreign races who came to help, Zhou Zhou did not know if they had any master god-tier trump cards. However, looking at these true god-tiers, they still looked like they were desperately resisting but were helpless. There was a high chance that they did not. They would have long used it if they had any. Then, he looked at the Yellow Emperor and company. I'll give you another surprise that we agreed on yesterday. He smiled. Zhou Zhou flicked his fingers. A large number of ancient green bronze-tier phantoms flew out from his fingertip and landed on the Yellow Emperor, the Buddha Lord, Bai He, Patriarch Lu, and the other true god-tiers, as well as the human god spirits who had come to help. The human race god spirits did not sense anything at first. However, when a human mid-tier deity, true immortal Tai Sui, relied on his divine artifact and abundant magic power to kill a mid-tier deity elementary grade blood moon god spirit, he suddenly felt the magic power in his body suddenly soared. In the blink of an eye, it reached the limit of his own magic power, and it was faintly showing signs of breaking through the upper limit of his magic power and reaching another realm. True immortal Tai Sui was stunned. He first observed his surroundings and realized that there were no enemies nearby. After he was temporarily safe, he immediately checked his body in disbelief and surprise. He realized that his senses were right. I'm really going to advance. Could this be a reward from the heavens for my actions of protecting the human race? Otherwise, how could I have obtained a cultivation level comparable to 10,000 years of bitter cultivation at once? True immortal Tai Sui muttered excitedly. He had just killed a mid-tier deity-level god spirit from a people of foreign races. The cultivation level he had obtained could also be said to be a promotion energy. It was almost comparable to the promotional energy he had provided him by killing dozens of mid-tier deity-level super experts. How could he not be excited? How could he not think that it was just a reward from the heavens? But soon, he realized that something was amiss. This was because he saw that there were many human god spirits around him. After killing the god spirits of the people of foreign races, his dermic powers and cultivation suddenly soared. He had a faint feeling that he was about to break through to the next level. Even if some god spirits did not immediately reach the calm state of advancement, the magic power fluctuations around them had also increased greatly. Clearly, they had benefited greatly. What's going on? The true immortal Tai Sui was deceived. The other immortals were also deceived. Yellow Emperor, Buddha Lord, and the other human true god tiers were also deceived. This was because they also felt that the promotion energy in their bodies had also increased rapidly, obtaining unimaginable promotion energy. Fortunately, they were veterans of the battlefield. Even though they were shocked by the abnormality in their bodies, they did not lose their vigilance. Otherwise, many immortals would have died just from being deceived for a while. At this moment, Zhou Zhou's voice resounded in the hearts of the Yellow Emperor, Buddha Lord, and other human god spirits. Everyone, don't panic. Just now, this king used my lord's law and borrowed the power of the master god tier to superimpose a layer of the law of war's enhancement effect on everyone. The effect is, as long as you kill an enemy, the promotion energy you obtain from the other party, in addition to the usual promotion energy you can also obtain 50 additional promotion energy. Which means, if everyone kills an enemy now, all the promotion energy obtained will be equivalent to all the war energy obtained by killing 51 enemies. The duration of this buff is about 10 days. During this period, everyone can use the buffs of the law of war to their heart's content against our enemies. As for 10 days later, if you want to continue maintaining this layer of war enhancement, as long as you don't do anything evil, feel free to ask me for it. As soon as these words were spoken, the immortals were stunned. This powerful buff was actually created by their patriarch? Then, they seemed to realize something. When they looked at the enemies in front of them, the meaning in their eyes changed. They looked at these enemies like a pack of wolves looking at their prey. Such a large increase in promotion energy was like a path to heaven in front of them. If they did not take advantage of this opportunity to earn a large sum of promotion energy for themselves, they would be letting down the opportunity their patriarch had given them. I have to consider if this is the only chance I have in my life. Let's do it, brothers. Kill, kill, kill. D***. If I don't kill them to death, I'll regret it to death in the future. I'll set a small goal and raise my strength to the limit of my potential with the help of the law of war. The god spirits were extremely excited. Then, They roared and rushed towards the Shadow Clan god spirits and the people of foreign races. Right now, be it the advantage of military strength, the advantage of generals, the advantage of heroes, the advantage of god spirits, the advantage of equipment and divine artifacts, or even the advantage of true god tier and the advantage of the strongest, they were all on their side. If he died, he could ask his friend to request the patriarch to revive him for free. What was there for them to be afraid of with an advantage and a backup plan? Just do it. The Yellow Emperor and the others also looked at each other, their eyes filled with undisguised shock. No wonder the strength of the patriarch and the soldiers and god spirits under him increased so quickly. So they actually have such a heaven-defying enhancement. If this had happened to me a long time ago, even though the Yellow Emperor and company didn't continue, their voices were already filled with envy and pity. To be able to become a true god tier and become a leader at the level of the speaker of the human race, they were not people with mediocre potential. If this benefit had been with them long ago, they might have long reached the level of standing shoulder to shoulder with Imperial Lord Pangu, or even surpassing him. How could they have been forced to retreat to the primordial world by these enemies? However, they knew that it was impossible, so they did not think too much about it. They looked at the true god tiers of the people of foreign races who were not affected by the 10,000 spirit saint. They looked at each other and rushed towards them without hesitation. In the sky, Zhou Zhou couldn't help but smile when he saw the god spirits of the human race suddenly become fierce and belligerent after receiving his buff. It seems that the Lord's nomological techniques I comprehended are not bad. He nodded in satisfaction. The buffing ability of the law of war was naturally comprehended by him and his two clones through comprehending the mythical tier's one and only Lord Talent. 10 Sacred Blessings. The protection of the War Master God, Terrence. It allowed Zhou Zhou to bestow the Master God's blessing to a small number of life forms, giving them an additional 50 times increase in promotion energy. It was equivalent to the effect of the diamond-level Lord Talent, Blessing of the 10 Gods, Blessing of the War God. This way, Zhou Zhou would be able to enhance the innate abilities of living beings that had not joined the Blazing Sun Kingdom. For example, Yellow Emperor and the other human gods. It was unrealistic to let them all join the Blazing Sun Kingdom. But now that Zhou Zhou was the patriarch of the human race, it was impossible for him to ignore them. This skill, which was equivalent to half a Lord's Law skill, could allow the human soldiers and god spirits who were not from the Blazing Sun Kingdom to grow faster. Even though the scope of application is not wide at present, these would also increase in the future as his comprehension of Lord's Law and his god spirit realm increased. In the following period of time, he did not participate in the battle at all. He left the battlefield to the soldiers and god spirits. The sky gradually darkened. When the sun set and darkness descended on the high continent, the battlefield gradually returned to calm. Apart from the living beings of the Blazing Sun Kingdom and those who had surrendered, everyone else on the battlefield had already become corpses and captives. The soldiers, heroes, and god spirits of the Blazing Sun Kingdom had already begun to clean up the battlefield. Meanwhile, Zhou Zhou was led by a Shadow Clan true god tier who had been influenced by the 10,000 spirit saint towards the Shadow Sacred Hall's treasury. The Shadow Clan's treasury was located under the Shadow Temple. Zhou Zhou and this Shadow Clan true god tier god spirit, named Tarokal, passed through 7 or 8 secret underground passageways before arriving at a silent and empty underground palace. At the center of the palace, there was a dim teleportation formation. Your Majesty, can I borrow the Shadow Divine Token? The spatial teleportation array to the Shadow Clan's treasure vault can only be activated by a Shadow Clan true god tier with a Shadow Divine Token. Zhou Zhou nodded and did not say anything. He took out the Shadow Divine Token and handed it to the other party. Thank you for your trust, Your Majesty. Tarokal nodded gratefully. He didn't expect that as a true god tier who had just surrendered and joined the Blazing Sun Kingdom, he could actually obtain such great trust from this common people's regal. Once he obtained this Shadow Divine Token, he could use this spatial teleportation array to escape to the Shadow Clan's treasure vault after all. However, His Majesty actually trusted him so much. Tarokal took a deep breath and no longer had any other thoughts. He walked to the spatial teleportation array and first formed a seal to inject the Shadow Divine token into it before injecting his true God-tier divine power into it. The next second, rumble. The entire underground palace began to tremble faintly. Then, around the spatial teleportation array that had been shut down, streams of shadow airflow suddenly dissipated. Zhou Zhou narrowed his eyes slightly. He could tell that it was not an ordinary shadow airflow. Instead, it had the divine power of the shadow nomological laws that were imprinted by different true god tiers of the Shadow Clan. As soon as these shadow nomological divine powers came out, they surged into the spatial teleportation array crazily. After all the shadow nomological divine powers were injected into it, the spatial fluctuations around the spatial teleportation array gradually turned from dead silence to abnormally active. Obviously, this spatial teleportation array had already been activated. At this moment, Tarokal, who was standing in front of the spatial teleportation array, turned around and bowed respectfully to Zhou Zhou. Your Majesty, the spatial teleportation array has been activated. Your Majesty, please follow me. Zhou Zhou nodded before entering the spatial teleportation array with Tarokal. In the Shadow Clan's treasure vault world, on a black mountain, there was a sacred hall heavily guarded by the Shadow Clan. In the Holy Temple, on the spatial teleportation array, the spatial teleportation array emitted a gentle silver light before Zhou Zhou and Tarakal's figures appeared on the teleportation array. Your Majesty, we've arrived at our Shadow Clan's treasure vault world, Tarakal said respectfully. This is a small world personally created by your Shadow Clan's true god, tier. Zhou Zhou swept his gaze over and saw through this world. He clicked his tongue in wonder. Your Majesty has good eyesight. This treasury world has been built since the era of our first Shadow Clan patriarch. Along the way, it has been continuously strengthened by 21 Shadow Clan patriarchs and has continued until now. Even though its current scale is only the size of a small world, in terms of defense and concealment ability, it can already compare to a boundless universe treasure vault. Furthermore, our patriarchs have also used the shadow sand technique to build the small world's main body on top of a shadow sand. It can be stored in any spatial treasure. Even the lowest grade black iron tier storage equipment can contain the shadow sand that carries the treasure vault world. If your Majesty wants to take that shadow sand, I can bring your Majesty to the world's origin core to take it later. Tarokal said proudly before speaking respectfully to Zhou Zhou. Sure. Zhou Zhou nodded. If this world of the Shadow Sand Vault was really as magical as this guy said, then he could bring it back and use it as the treasure vault of their Blazing Sun Kingdom. Those treasure vault buildings were already not enough to store his vast number of loots. An entire small world could be used for a very long time. Tarokal nodded before bringing Zhou Zhou around the entire treasure vault world. Your Majesty, this is the Diamond Tier Regional Territory, Wanbao Mountain. It's specially used to store special treasures that are not equipment. This is the territory of the legendary tier region, the Shadow Soldier Sea. This vast sea is formed by the purifying essence spirit water. It's extremely suitable for storing protective equipment. There are trillions of weapons and equipment stored inside. From black iron tier equipment to legendary tier equipment, be it combat profession-free equipment, soldier-type profession equipment, life profession craftsman equipment, or other types of equipment, there's everything here. Moreover, they're all extremely well preserved. Apart from that, at the bottom of the Divine Weapon Sea, there's also a Divine Artifact Tower. There are 106 Divine Artifacts stored inside. There are all kinds of equipment from low-level to high-tier deity level. However, the attributes are different. Most of them are Shadow-type Divine Artifacts, and only a few are Divine Artifacts of other attributes. This is the Palace of Beauty. There are tens of millions of beauties from various races that we have collected from the myriad races in the world. Even if every life form has different aesthetic standards, they can definitely find the opposite sex they like here. This is the Heavenly Materials and Earthly Treasures mountain range. The entire mountain range is made of all kinds of heavenly materials and earthly treasures. This is the machinery field. There are about 10 million legendary tier Machina race spaceships and 10,000 low-tier deity-level spaceships inside. These are the spoils of war that our Shadow Clan once traded with a distant Machina Race Lord faction. Unfortunately, that Machina Race Lord faction was destroyed later on, and we no longer updated these machinery civilization items. However, their functions are still intact. Tarot Call introduced the treasures stored in various regions of the Shadow Clan's treasure vault world. It was more than a myriad of types. It could simply be described as a myriad of types. Just a mountain range of natural treasures was worth more than 10 billion legendary tier mist cores, not to mention other more precious places. Even Zhou Zhou, who had seen countless loots, saw many treasures that he had never seen before in this treasure vault world. As expected of a race with a super empire-level lord faction, the racial heritage was indeed not something that the people of foreign races that he had conquered in the past could compare to. Zhou Zhou sighed inwardly. On the surface, he was very calm, as if he had seen the world. Tarot Call became even more careful and respectful. A moment later, they arrived at a square. On the huge square, there were 11 Empire-level monuments of different sizes. Among them, there were 6 beginner-grade Empire Jade Steels, 4 intermediate-grade Empire Jade Steels, and 1 advanced-grade Empire Jade Steel. Their bodies were like jade. The shortest was 100 meters tall, and the tallest was 1,000 meters tall. It was on a completely different level from the kingdom's golden steel. Zhou Zhou looked at the 11 Imperial Jade tablets and had an idea. Rumble. The 11 Imperial Jade tablets shattered along with his thoughts, revealing the high-tier deity-level advanced grade territory token, high-tier deity-level advanced grade territory token, and high-tier deity-level advanced grade advanced empire token. They added up to a total of 33 tokens, which were all stored in his king's treasure box. When Tarot Call saw this scene, he had mixed feelings. The collapse of the Empire's Jade Tablet meant that the Shadow Clan had been completely annihilated. If not for the common people's regal taking them in, they would probably have become refugees without a country. However, joining the common people's regal's Blazing Sun Kingdom and becoming a citizen of the Blazing Sun Kingdom might not necessarily be a bad thing. Tarot Call sensed the potential of the Master God tier that he had just advanced to not long ago. He took a deep breath and revealed a sincere smile from the bottom of his heart. Congratulations, Your Majesty, for becoming the ruler of the Shadow Clan's territory, he said sincerely and respectfully. From now on, the Shadow Canopy will be a domain-level territory of MV Blazing Sun Kingdom. It can be called the Shadow Domain. You are the new lord of the Shadow Domain, the current patriarch of the Shadow Clan. Zhou Zhou ordered calmly. He easily placed this important appointment on the other party. Tarot Call was an intermediate-grade true god, and his potential was also an advanced-grade true god. Now, with the support of the Sword of Xian Yuan and the Sun Moon Star Sword, he had directly advanced to become a top-notch advanced-grade master god. In addition, the other party was influenced by the peaceful times and was already extremely loyal to him. It was not a big deal to hand this domain lord over to him. Thank you for your grace, Your Majesty. The true god of shadow and bloodblade. Tarot Call, am willing to die for Your Majesty. Tarot Call knelt on the ground in excitement and gratitude. Zhou Zhou sensed that the other party had become a fanatic believer and nodded slightly. He did not feel excited at all. If he became a Holy Spirit tier believer, he might be pleasantly surprised. However, it was always a good thing to have a true God tier advanced grade fanatic believer in the territory. Even if I were given another 10 true God tier advanced grade combat power, their combined power wouldn't allow me to break through the bottleneck of Master God tier combat power. As for that Master God tier intermediate grade Great Lunar Demon Blade, I can't use it at a higher level even with my Master God tier chaotic sacred power. Zhou Zhou felt that it was a pity. The difference between a Master God tier and a true God tier was too great. He could use true God tier divine artifacts at a higher level through King when he was at the legendary tier level. Yet, he was at the low tier deity level intermediate grade, but he couldn't use a Master God tier intermediate grade divine artifact through King. Perhaps if you give me a Master God tier elementary grade divine artifact, I'll be able to use it at a higher level? Zhou Zhou had other thoughts and could give this idea a try. However, this operation to destroy the enemy clan could not be stopped. Among the 5 main people of foreign races that had stopped the human race from retreating to the primordial world, the Shadow Clan had already been destroyed by him. Each of the other 4 races should have the foundation of true God-tier divine artifacts. As long as he could destroy them, it shouldn't be difficult for him to obtain an elementary grade master God-tier divine artifact from them. At that time, he would be able to test if he could control a master God-tier elementary grade divine artifact. If he could control it, he would have a high chance of dealing with Uriel. In the following period of time, Tarokal continued to show Zhou Zhou around the Shadow Clan's treasure vault world, introducing the many treasures stored here. The 2 of them were true god tiers. As they flew and browsed, they quickly saw most of the treasures in the treasure vault world. It had to be said that as a powerful race that could firmly suppress the human race, the treasures stored by he had indeed dazzled Zhou Zhou. However, if one thought about it carefully, it was actually just like that. The total value was probably not even 1/5 of the total value of the 30 true god-tier divine artifacts in his hands. With this in mind, Zhou Zhou lost interest in continuing reading. He directly got Tarokal to bring him to the core of the treasure vault world. Even though Tarokal felt a little regretful when he heard that, he still brought Zhou Zhou to the origin core. The source core of the treasury world was in a shadow law source world deep within the treasury world. This place was a world of its own, filled with the power of the laws of shadow. The source of the power of the law of shadows was a grain of black shadow sand floating in the sky in the center of the source world. After Zhou Zhou was brought here, he immediately noticed the shadow sand. Then, he raised his hand and controlled the shadow sand to fly into his hand. Then, he directly recognized it as his private property. I'll take away the resources in your treasure vault. In the future, the development resources of your Shadow Clan will be distributed by the officials of our kingdom. It won't be any less than the resources you used before. Also, this set of Shadow-type, true, God-tier divine artifacts is for you. Zhou Zhou casually took out a set of low-level true God-tier laws of Shadow, true, God-divine artifacts, and gave them to the other party. In the future, as the ruler of the Shadow Domain, you need to oversee the Shadow Clan. Enhancing your strength is indispensable. Otherwise, not only will you and the Shadow Clan lose face, but it will also bring shame to our Blazing Sun Kingdom. It will even make other enemies think that our Blazing Sun Kingdom is weak and easy to bully. These 6 true God-tier divine artifacts will help you increase your strength. The weapons belong to you as your reward for joining the Blazing Sun Kingdom. As for the other 5 true God-tier divine artifacts, I'll lend them to you for the time being. When you've established enough military merits, you can come to the capital to exchange for them and turn them into true God-tier divine artifacts that truly belong to you. Zhou Zhou said, "Thank you for your reward, Your Majesty." Tarokal was overjoyed as he knelt on one knee in gratitude. He had been a little worried just now. After His Majesty took away the Shadow Clan's treasury world, what would support the future development of the Shadow Clan? Unexpectedly, not only did His Majesty immediately provide a solution, but he even gave he the right to use the 6 true God-tier artifacts. He even directly rewarded him with one of the true God-tier divine artifacts. What kind of noble and generous monarch was this? At this moment, Tarokal even had the intention of being Zhou Zhou's dog. As for the treasure vault, so be it. What does it have to do with me? Even if His Majesty didn't give the Shadow Clan any resources to develop in the future and let them earn everything themselves, he felt that it wasn't a loss at all. Get up. As long as you are loyal to me, such a reward, or even something better, will be yours. Zhou Zhou raised his hand, and Tarokal stood up uncontrollably. There was no time to be shocked. With a thought, Zhou Zhou controlled the Shadow Sand Treasury world in his hand. The space around the 2 of them changed. Then, he saw that the 2 of them had already returned to the location of the spatial teleportation array. Then, the 2 of them did not waste any more time and left directly, returning to the Shadow Temple on the ground. As soon as he returned to the Temple of Shadows, a forbidden Archmage general who had been waiting for a long time walked over quickly and said respectfully to Zhou Zhou, "Your Majesty, the #1 true god of the Shadow Clan, Jacro, suddenly appeared from a pile of Shadow Clan corpses and quickly fled in the direction away from the Shadow Clan's territory. Your Excellency Heros, Your Excellency Yellow Emperor, Your Excellency Buddha Lord, and 5 other true God-tier gods have already led an army to pursue him. Zhou Zhou nodded. What is Bai Yun doing? He asked. Legion Commander Bai Yun is currently sorting out the gains from this war and educating the captives who are unwilling to surrender. Zhou Zhou nodded slightly. Looks like we'll have to wait a while, he muttered to himself. Tarokal hurriedly nodded when he heard that. Zhou Zhou turned to look at he and suddenly thought of something. He took out the Great Lunar Emperor's Vision Divine Stone. Spirit of the Great Lunar Stone sculpture, I almost forgot to ask you before. Previously, when I saw that Aces used you, he sacrificed his life. Why don't I have any requests? Zhou Zhou asked curiously. After a while, the Great Lunar Emperor's Vision Divine Stone, which had been silent all this while, suddenly said. Using the light from the Great Lunar Emperor's Vision Divine Stone requires the power of that gaze. Once it's used up, I'll become an ordinary Great Lunar Spirit Stone again. I've paid so much. Of course, I have to control my existence and pay a price. As for Your Excellency Regal, your body possesses a magical and magnificent power. It even increased my origin energy by several times. I can't ask you for anything. Zhou Zhou was speechless. So that was the reason. It seemed that this treasure was also based on one's judgment. You made a smart choice. You won't regret it. Zhou Zhou smiled. The Great Lunar Emperor's Vision Divine Stone moved slightly in response. At this moment, Heros' voice came from outside the temple. Your Majesty, Jakro has been arrested. Bring him up. Zhou Zhou ordered. Yes, Your Majesty, Heros said respectfully. Soon, he, the Yellow Emperor, and the other 5 true God-tiers joined forces to detain a true God-tier whose body was in tatters and covered in blood. It was Jakro. The first thing Jakro saw was Zhou Zhou. At this moment, his expression was still very calm, as if he had already accepted his fate. But when he saw Tarokal beside Zhou Zhou, his eyes suddenly widened. Then, he realized something and suddenly roared crazily. Tarkal, what are you doing? Why are you standing behind that guy? Jakro, I've already acknowledged the common people's Regal as my master. I advise you to watch your words. El might even be able to plead for you in front of His Majesty so that you have a chance to serve His Majesty. Otherwise, Tarokal looked at him coldly and advised. You actually betrayed my brother and our Shadow Clan. You traitor. Have you forgotten what we did for you? We've invested so many resources in you. And this is how you treat us, the Shadow Clan? You're even one of the candidates for the future leader of the Shadow Clan. Are you worthy of our approval? Jakro became even crazier and interrupted Tarokal. Your approval? Tarokal glared at him. Hasn't the Shadow Clan long become Aces and your dominant power? You're also a member of the Shadow Clan, an advanced grade true God tier, and you've also made so many contributions to the Shadow Clan. Just because Aces and you are brothers, you became the #1 true God tier worshipper of the Shadow Clan. Have you, Jakro, forgotten how many times you've lost to me during our usual sparring sessions? Why is it that a weakling like you can become the #1 true God tier of the Shadow Clan, while one can only be #2? Look at Aces. The enemy is right in front of us, and he didn't hesitate to give you the Shadow Divine Token. He didn't even look at me. Why? Why is he doing this? What's the point of making me the so-called candidate for the Patriarch? Will I become the joke of the other true God tier when you are chosen? Jakro opened his mouth, but couldn't say anything to refute. However, Tarokal wasn't finished. And my new master? He has clearly just taken me in as a subordinate, but he has already handed over the huge territory of the Shadow Clan to me to manage. I am now the ruler of the Shadow Clan. The Shadow Divine Token has been given to me by His Majesty. My Majesty is the wise Lord that I deserve to be loyal to for the rest of my life. Not you as my brother race. Tarokal took out the Shadow Token that Zhou Zhou had given him and raised it high for Jakro to see. Jakro looked at the Divine Shadow Token and then at Zhou Zhou and Tarokal. He gradually smiled tragically. Jakro stopped talking. The other party had a numb and dazed expression no matter what Zhou Zhou and Tarokal said. It was hard to imagine that such an expression would appear on a top-notch true God tier who controlled the life and death of a race. This guy's ready to die. Kill him. Zhou Zhou shook his head. Yes, Heros said respectfully. Then, the other true god tier and him escorted him out of the Temple of Shadows. After being detained out of the Temple of Shadows, Jacro looked back at the tall and majestic Temple of Shadows. The scene of the temple collapsing seemed to appear in his dark and numb eyes. At the Temple of Shadows, Tarokal watched with a complicated expression as Jacro was detained. Why? Are you soft-hearted? Zhou Zhou looked at him and asked with a faint smile. El wouldn't dare. I'm just a little emotional. Even though our Shadow clan can't be said to be completely invincible around the territory we once ruled, we have never encountered an existence that we can't resist or reconcile with. Therefore, we have never encountered such a crisis of extermination. Now that danger has suddenly appeared, even before I can react, the Shadow clan has already been destroyed. Tarokal pursed his lips. The struggle of all races exceeds my imagination. It's too fast. When Zhou Zhou heard that, his expression was calm and he did not say anything. Actually, under normal circumstances, without a special existence like him, the lords of all races should still be fighting among themselves at this stage. The civilizations behind the lords of all races should still be watching the big show of the lord of all races like spectators. However, because of his sudden rise, the prairie fire of the lord of all races was spread to the civilization behind the lord in advance. These races and civilizations probably didn't expect that the huge lord of all races competition would undergo such a huge change because of them, and their progress would be so much faster. Zhou Zhou naturally had no regrets about this. The battle for supremacy progressed faster and faster. The more beneficial it was to a lord of all races like him who had a weak foundation. Otherwise, prolonging the battle for supremacy and letting the lords of the other races slowly unleash their own civilization would only increase their advantage. At that time, the other weak lords of the other races would basically not have to play and could just surrender. A moment later, Heros quickly walked over with a spatial ring and a world ring. Then, he said respectfully, "Your Majesty, this is the spoils of war after Jacro's death, as well as the world ringing on him." Zhou Zhou nodded. Then, with a thought, he saw that the two rings had already teleported from Heros' hand to him. He first entered the spatial ring and then shook his head. Jacro's spoils of war were much lesser than Ace's. Other than the 18 true God-tier divine artifacts and 30 to 40 master God-tier materials that dropped, there was nothing else to see. However, the only interesting thing was that there was an epic tier Lord Talent sphere and 5 epic tier Lord Talent crystal fragments inside. He could open them later. Then, he entered the world ring beside him and browsed through it. Then, he raised his brows slightly with a surprised expression. This was because he had discovered that this fellow's world ring actually contained a large number of resources. Even though it could not compare to the resources of the Shadow Clan's treasury world that he had just obtained, it was still 1/10 of the total. This was not a resource that an ordinary true God-tier advanced grade god spirit could possess. Zhou Zhou calculated in his heart and came to a conclusion. So this is a backup racial resource of the Shadow Clan. It was secretly preserved by the patriarchs of the past generations. The purpose of keeping it is to prevent the Shadow Clan from being wiped out one day. With this racial resource, the Shadow Clan has the possibility of rising again in the future. Before the decisive battle between Aces and me, he handed this spare racial resource to Jacro. It seems that he did indeed have a backup plan. What a pity. Jacro didn't run away. This spare racial resource still fell into my hands. Even though Zhou Zhou said that it was a pity, he still threw it into the king's treasure box in his body. After a while, before Bayun arrived, an unexpected friend in Zhou Zhou's personal terminal sent him a message. The queen of the Elven Empire, Elizariel, had sent a message to him. The content of the message was very simple, but it was also very shocking. The Elven Empire had officially started the Divine Kingdom battle for throne against the behemoth Divine Kingdom. Once it succeeded, the Elven Empire would fulfill the last condition to advance to a beginner Divine Kingdom and officially advance to a beginner-level Divine Kingdom Lord faction. It didn't matter if he failed. History doesn't keep track of losers. The behemoth Divine Kingdom seemed to have been prepared. In the face of the Elven Empire's sudden war, they did not panic at all. They had long prepared their troops and waited for the other party to ascend the door. Currently, both sides were fighting at the border city of the Behemoth Divine Kingdom, the extraordinary tier regional territory, Behemoth City. In the first battle, both sides directly invested more than 100 billion soldiers and hundreds of god spirits to fight. Both sides even sent out a true god tier to engage in a preliminary battle. Obviously, both sides wanted to make a good start by winning their first battle. How dangerous is it to go against an elementary divine kingdom with an empire? I'll wonder if the Elven Empire will succeed. Zhou Zhou lamented in his heart. He wanted to join in the fun. He didn't have any support for either side in this war. There was naturally no need to mention the Behemoth Divine Kingdom. There was no enmity between them. It had never provoked him, and he did not want to provoke it. Even though the Elven Empire had a good relationship with him, ever since he rejected Octavel's request to send troops, his relationship with the Elven Empire had entered an awkward situation. Under such circumstances, whether the other party won or not was not good news for him. To Zhou Zhou, the most suitable outcome would be for both sides to suffer losses in this battle. This way, he might be able to benefit from it. At this moment, Elizariel requested for Zhou Zhou's help. She also said that as long as Zhou Zhou agreed to help, the day the Elven Empire was built, they could conclude an eternal alliance treaty with the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Under this treaty, as long as there was no internal strife between the two sides, it was basically comparable to the relationship between brothers. A future divine kingdom had made such a request to Zhou Zhou. Under normal circumstances, with Zhou Zhou's current strength and influence, it was more than enough to help the Elven Empire. However, Zhou Zhou still refused. The Elven Queen did not lose her poise after Zhou Zhou refused. After saving that it was fine, she did not say anything else. Zhou Zhou looked at Elise, Ariel's series of messages, with a very calm expression. The Behemoth Divine Kingdom is a true divine kingdom lord faction. Who knows what trump cards they have hidden? What kind of allies do they have? Perhaps they have allies from other divine kingdom lord factions. In addition, I have no enmity with the Behemoth Divine Kingdom. Even if I send troops to the Elven Empire with help, my reputation won't be too good. After all, we're not dealing with the Scarlet Lords. If you had attacked a Scarlet Divine Kingdom Lord faction, I might have sent out my troops. Moreover, you're asking me for help again at this time. I'm afraid the situation on your side isn't as smooth as you imagined, right? The Behemoth Empire is probably more difficult to deal with than you imagine, right? Zhou Zhou muttered to himself. He thought for a moment and sent someone to call Wu Tu over. Your subject, Wu Tu, greets His Majesty. After Wu Tu came over, he bowed respectfully. When Zhou Zhou saw this, he briefly explained the matter between the Elven Empire and the Behemoth Divine Kingdom to the other party. Then, you, the mysterious caravan, and the Starfire mercenary team will gather information on the battle between the two sides. If there's any new information, send it to the capital immediately and tell me. Yes, Your Majesty, Wu Tu said respectfully. You may leave. Zhou Zhou nodded and said. Wu Tu took his leave. Bai Yun quickly walked in not long after he left. Your Majesty, all the racial resources that the Shadow Clan can take away have been collected. The loots have also been sorted out. Regarding the captives, according to Madame Wenya's statistics, we have captured about 31.612 billion people of foreign race soldiers, 216 god spirits, and 2 true god tiers. As for the royal family of the Shadow Clan, we've also captured them all. Currently, they're gathered in the side hall of the Temple of Shadows with the ministers and god spirits of the Shadow Clan. They're under the joint custody of Your Excellency Lu and Your Excellency White River. Your Majesty, do you want to take a look? Bai Yun asked respectfully. Are they willing to submit to our Blazing Sun Kingdom? Zhou Zhou asked. Most of them are willing to submit, but only a few stubborn old officials are unwilling to accept surrender for the time being. Bai Yun said. Let's go take a look. Zhou Zhou thought for a moment and said. His kingdom would rule this territory in the future after all. He had to let these old ministers see who their new master was. Otherwise, he would have already conquered this territory. In the end, the former owner of this territory did not even see him, the lord in charge of the offensive. It felt strange. Your Majesty, please follow me. Bai Yun nodded. Then, He brought Zhou Zhou and Tarokal to the side hall. On the way, Tarokal suddenly whispered, "Your Majesty, perhaps I can try to persuade those stubborn old ministers. To be able to become the higher-ups of our shadow clan, they are not ordinary people. It would be a pity to kill them. If they can be convinced by me and serve His Majesty, it can be considered their honor and luck. They can also add bricks and tiles to His Majesty's country." "Sure." Zhou Zhou nodded slightly. Soon, the three of them arrived at the side hall. Even though this was a side hall, it actually occupied a huge area and could accommodate hundreds of thousands of people. However, when he thought of this, he felt that it was normal for the Shadow Clan, who had mastered the extraordinary tier power, and even the gods who had mastered the laws. At this moment, there were more than 100,000 shadows and a small number of people of foreign races in the huge side hall. They were all detained by the Blazing Sun Kingdom's soldiers and even god spirits. No one dared to move. When they saw Zhou Zhou arrive, all the soldiers and god spirits immediately said respectfully in unison, "Greetings, Your Majesty." "Greetings, Patriarch." Zhou Zhou nodded. Then, he walked straight to the Temple Lord's seat at the highest point at the front and sat down. He looked at the Shadow Clan royal family, ministers, and god spirits below. "This king won't say any nonsense. Those who are willing to join our Blazing Sun Kingdom will naturally be rewarded with authority, status, wealth, and strength. You will have everything you want as long as you are loyal and capable. As for those who are unwilling to join my kingdom, it's simple. We are enemies to begin with. If we lose and are unwilling to surrender, please die." Zhou Zhou said calmly. His voice revealed an unquestionable attitude. The expressions of the Shadow Clan emperors, ministers, and god spirits immediately changed when they heard this. They could tell that the regal in front of them was not just talking. He had plenty of talents under him. It didn't matter what kind of powerhouse, genius, or master you were. As long as you weren't willing to submit, he could really kill you. "I'm willing to surrender. Please don't kill me, Your Majesty." "I'm willing to surrender too. I've admired His Majesty for a long time. It's my dream to become His Majesty's subject." "Your Majesty, before you came, I already said that I was willing to join the Blazing Sun Kingdom. This subject hates war and hopes to create peace. The peaceful environment of the Sun Kingdom created by His Majesty is known by all races. You are the wise ruler that I dream of submitting to." "Oomph. So what if I die? You're just a small human lord. Even if you become a regal, don't even think about making me, Zella, submit to you." "Well said. My division is a god spirit nurtured by the Shadow Clan. You, an enemy who destroyed my Shadow Clan, still want me to surrender? Dream on. I wish I could eat your flesh and blood raw and devour your soul." Zhou Zhou's words immediately caused all sorts of reactions from these old Shadow Clan officials. Some immediately surrendered, wishing that they were born into the Blazing Sun Kingdom. There were also some who looked like they hated their country. They stared at Zhou Zhou as if they were looking at their mortal enemies. "How dare you?" Before he could do anything, he saw Tarokal standing up angrily and waving his right hand. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. A large amount of dark gray shadow divine power transformed into shadow blades that shot towards these old Shadow Clan officials who were cursing. Most of these former Shadow Clan officials had not even reached the level of a god spirit. Only a small portion of them were god spirits. How could they withstand the attack of a true god-tier advanced grade? He was killed in one strike. The surrounding Shadow Clan officials, regardless of whether they were willing to surrender or not, were shocked and did not dare to speak after seeing this scene. They were terrified. Zhou Zhou's expression was calm. He didn't say anything and only gave Tarokal an appreciative look. Tarokal was delighted when he saw this. Then, he immediately puffed out his chest and took out the shadow token to show these old Shadow Clan officials. Finally, he uttered solemnly, "You should know me and the Shadow Divine token in my hand." Not bad. Now, I, the second true god tier of the Shadow Clan, have by now grasped the Shadow Divine token and become the current master of the Shadow Clan. Patriarch Aces has by now died in battle. But the Shadow Clan can't be without a master for a day, and we can't cut off the inheritance of our Shadow Clan because of this. Otherwise, how can we be worthy of the Shadow Clan ancestry in our bodies? We're sinners to begin with. But now, the common people's regal is willing to forgive our past mistakes and even allow us to become part of the Blazing Sun Kingdom and become normal citizens of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. How magnanimous and bold is that? How can you be so stubborn? Don't forget that in the beginning, we were the ones who had to give the order to stop the humans from retreating to the primordial world. His Majesty is already magnanimous enough to ignore your past. Are you really only happy when you're about to die? The old ministers of the Shadow Clan fell silent as soon as these words were spoken. When Tarokal saw this, he knew that it was time. Hence, he raised the divine shadow token in his hand and uttered solemnly to them, I command you as the master of the Shadow Clan. Join the Blazing Sun Kingdom and become a subject of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Offer all your loyalty to His Majesty. His Majesty is a supreme regal and serves His Majesty. Our ancestors won't blame us. Instead, they will take it as glory. If you don't listen now, when will you? Towards the end, he shouted. The ministers of the Shadow Clan below looked at each other and knelt down. We are willing to be His Majesty's subjects. We are willing to surrender. The old officials of the Shadow Clan uttered one after another. When Tarokal saw this scene, he nodded in his heart. Then, he quietly retreated behind Zhou Zhou and left the scene in front of him. Zhou Zhou nodded slightly when he saw this. He could tell that actually, these guys did not want to die. They just needed a way out. Now that the current patriarch, Tarokal, had personally come to influence them, it was equivalent to giving them a way out. They were naturally willing to surrender. You'll be glad of your selection today in the future, he said. He made some arrangements for the Shadow Clan and set up a spatial teleportation array after all. Then, he led the army and loots to board the Galaxy Leader and return to the Blazing Sun Kingdom.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.